It's an anniversary today. It's exactly 2 years since the people of Crimea voted to rejoin Russia in a historic referendum. That was then, this is now. Thousands of people marching today in Crimea to mark this landmark anniversary. Our correspondent Ilya Petrenko reports from the resort city of Yalta.
Here on this beautiful peninsula, they call it the birthday of the new Crimea within Russia. In fact, what we're looking at here are two holidays. Today, on March 16th, the people will be celebrating exactly 2 years since the referendum took place, when the vast majority of locals voted to join Russia. And March 18th will mark the day when Crimea officially became a part of Russia. However, the festive mood has been marred by some of the ongoing problems Crimea is facing, like the downturn in business, the energy blockade by Ukraine, and Western sanctions. But as my colleague Nadira Tudor reports, in these 2 years, attitudes in the West have been changing.
When Crimea became a part of Russia 2 years ago, it caused a mass media outcry.
Vladimir Putin annexed part of Ukraine.
Putin signing papers to annex Crimea.
So he'll annex Crimea, so he gets that peninsula there.
Not everyone in Crimea is excited or enthusiastic about the annexation.
At this point, it was impossible to imagine that anyone would accept that the reunification was legitimate. But 2 years on, the dust has settled and things are changing, most notably in the map world. Here's French atlas makers Larousse. They've explained their motivation to show Crimea as part of Russia. They aim to reflect what's really happening on the ground. Google Maps has followed suit. Russian users will see Crimea as part of Russia when they check out the map. And there are a number of similar examples portraying Crimea as part of Russia. Apart from the obvious disapproval, there were actions.
Sanctions.
Sanctions. We make sure that unacceptable actions will bear very serious consequences.
There are obvious signs of progress, as we're now seeing an array of international delegates from a wide range of countries, including Israel, France and Japan. In fact, the mayor of the French Mediterranean city of Nice, Christian Estrosi, is due to visit the peninsula. His aim, well, is to renew a long-standing cooperation agreement with the city of Yalta. And here's what some French politicians think about the situation as it stands.
We can see that the attitude is starting to change, in particular among the European population, because people are starting to be aware of a number of questions where Russia was right, in particular towards Ukraine and Russia's offer on the federalization of Ukraine. I'm convinced that the Crimean referendum will be accepted soon, because this is just common sense. Crimea became part of Ukraine in 1954 by Khrushchev's decision. Before that, Crimea was part of Russia during Soviet times. But then Ukraine became independent. Besides, there is an important Russian military navy base in Sevastopol. The population of Crimea speaks Russian, and by the way, a large part of the population in Ukraine speaks Russian too. Only on the western part of Ukraine, people speak Ukrainian. I hope that slowly the incorrect information that is related to America's actions will disappear.
So, despite the tough start 2 years ago, there is a wind of change, and it can only be onwards and upwards from this point on.
Yes, more to it too. This change in attitude is also reflected in public opinion in Europe and the US. Recent polls show that roughly a third of Europeans consider Crimea a part of Russia, while a quarter of Americans think the same. We'll leave you with that thought and tell you next, Afshin's along, going underground on Europe's refugee crisis.